Previously, Amara, born into a wealthy Nigerian family, developed a compulsive stealing habit that escalated into more dangerous behaviors. Sent to live with her strict grandmother, Amara instead found unexpected freedom and fell deeper into a world of theft and substance abuse. As her worried grandmother called her father for help, Amara ran away and found herself in a dirty alley, about to try hard drugs for the first time. Amara's hand trembled as she reached for the small packet of white powder. The boy with the scarred cheek grinned, his eyes glinting in the dim light of the alley. Just as Amara's fingertips brushed against the packet, a booming voice shattered the moment. "Amara!" She whirled around, her heart pounding. There, at the entrance of the alley, stood her father. Chief Okafor's face was a mask of fury and anguish, his usual dignified demeanor crumbling at the sight of his daughter in such a state. "Papa," Amara whispered, her voice small and frightened. In 2 long strides, Chief Okafor crossed the alley. He grabbed Amara's arm, pulling her away from the boy with the drugs. "What have you done to yourself?" he asked, his voice breaking. The boy with the scar tried to slip away, but Chief Okafor's voice stopped him cold. "Don't move, boy. The police are on their way." Amara felt the world spinning around her. This was it. This was the moment everything fell apart. The next few hours passed in a blur. Police sirens, questions, her father's tense silence as they drove home. Mama Okafor was waiting at the house, her eyes red from crying. "I'm so sorry," she kept saying. I thought if I gave her freedom." But Chief Okafor wasn't interested in explanations. His mind was made up. "You're going to rehab," he told Amara. His tone left no room for argument. "We've tried everything else. This is your last chance, Amara. Do you understand?" Amara nodded, too numb to protest. Part of her was relieved. Maybe this would finally fix whatever was broken inside her. The rehab center was nothing like Amara had imagined. No luxury, no special treatment for being Chief Okafor's daughter. Just dark white walls, strict schedules, and group therapy sessions that made her squirm with discomfort. Days turned into weeks. Amara went through the motions, attended the sessions, took her medications. But inside, she was screaming. The urge to steal, to run, to feel that familiar rush was overwhelming. One night, about a month into her stay, Amara couldn't take it anymore. While the night nurse was distracted, she slipped out of her room. Her heart pounded as she crept down the hallway, every shadow seeming to hide a staff member ready to catch her. But no one stopped her. Before she knew it, Amara was outside, gulping in the cool night air. Freedom. She started to run, not caring where she was going, just knowing she had to get away. Amara ran until her lungs burned and her legs felt like jelly. When she finally stopped, she found herself in a busy bus station. Without thinking, she bought a ticket for the first bus leaving the station. Destination, Lagos. As the bus pulled away, carrying her towards the sprawling metropolis, Amara felt a mix of exhilaration and terror. She was free, but she was also alone. Truly alone for the first time in her life. Back at home, chaos erupted when Amara's disappearance was discovered. Chief Okafor was beside himself with worry and anger. He launched a massive search, using all his connections to try and find his wayward daughter. Mama Okafor took the news the hardest. Already frail from age and the stress of recent events, she collapsed upon hearing that Amara had run away. The doctor said it was a minor stroke, brought on by extreme stress. As she lay in her hospital bed, Mama Okafor couldn't stop blaming herself. "I failed her," she kept muttering. "I failed my son. I failed Amara." Meanwhile, Amara was trying to survive in Lagos. The money she had stolen before leaving rehab didn't last long in the expensive city. Soon, she found herself sleeping in shelters, scrounging for food. But old habits die hard. Amara started picking pockets in crowded markets, her fingers as nimble as ever. It wasn't long before she caught the attention of a local gang. "You've got skills, girl," the gang leader, a tough-looking woman named Zainab, told her. "Want to make some real money?" Amara didn't hesitate. She was tired of being hungry, tired of being afraid. "Yes," she said. "Teach me everything." Under Zainab's tutelage, Amara's stealing went high-tech. She learned about credit card fraud, identity theft, online scams. It was a whole new world, and Amara threw herself into it with gusto. For a while, life was good. Amara had money again. She rented a nice apartment, bought designer clothes. She could almost pretend she was back home, the beloved daughter of Chief Okafor. But the emptiness inside her grew. To fill it, Amara turned to drugs. Not just the occasional pill or joint now, but hard stuff. Anything to numb the pain, to forget the look on her father's face that night in the alley. Months passed. Amara's life became a blur of scams, drugs, and parties. She was riding high, untouchable. Until the day it all came crashing down. It started with a big score. Amara and her gang had pulled off a major online fraud, swindling a foreign company out of millions of naira. They were celebrating at a high-end club, flush with cash and feeling invincible. Amara never saw the police coming. One minute she was dancing, the next she was face down on the floor, handcuffs biting into her wrists. At the police station, Amara got her second shock of the night. Zainab and the others were there, but they weren't in handcuffs. They were talking to the police, pointing at Amara. "She was the mastermind," Zainab was saying. "We just followed her orders." Betrayal hit Amara like a physical blow. These people she had thought were her friends, her new family, had sold her out to save themselves. As she sat in her cell that night, Amara hit rock bottom. She thought about her real family, her father, her mother, her grandmother. She wondered if they ever thought about her, if they missed her. Or had they given up on her, written her off as a lost cause? Amara's case went to trial. Given the scale of her crimes and her family's prominence, it made national news. Chief Okafor watched the proceedings with a heavy heart. His daughter, his little girl, standing in the dock like a common criminal. He wanted to help her, to sweep in and make it all go away like he used to do when she was small. But he knew he couldn't. This time, Amara had to face the consequences of her actions. The verdict came down hard. 5 years in prison. As Amara was led away, she caught her father's eye in the courtroom. The pain and disappointment she saw there would haunt her for years to come. Prison was a harsh wake-up call for Amara. Gone were the designer clothes, the fancy apartments, the wild parties. Her days were now filled with strict routines, hard work, and a lot of time to think. At first, Amara was angry. Angry at Zainab and the gang for betraying her, angry at the justice system for punishing her, angry at her family for not swooping in to save her. But as the months passed, that anger turned inward. For the first time, Amara began to truly face the damage she had done to herself, to her family, to innocent people she had stolen from. It was during this time that Amara received devastating news. Mama Okafor, her grandmother, had passed away. The stroke she had suffered after Amara's disappearance had weakened her, and she never fully recovered. The news broke something in Amara. She remembered her grandmother's gentle kindness, how she had trusted Amara when no one else would. And this was how Amara had repaid that trust. Racked with guilt and grief, Amara fell into a deep depression. She stopped eating, stopped talking to anyone. The prison psychologist tried to help, but Amara was lost in her own world of regret and self-loathing. It was in this darkest moment that an unexpected light appeared in Amara's life. A new prison chaplain, Pastor Ease, started working at the facility. Unlike the other staff who saw Amara as just another criminal, Pastor Ease saw something more. "You're not your mistakes, Amara," he told her one day. "You're not your past. You can choose who you want to be from this moment on." At first, Amara scoffed at his words. But Pastor Ease was persistent. He encouraged Amara to join the prison's education program, to start planning for a life after release. Slowly, day by day, Amara began to change. She threw herself into her studies, discovering a passion for computer programming that rivaled her old love of stealing. She attended therapy sessions, finally confronting the emptiness that had driven her for so long. As Amara changed, so did her relationship with her family. At first, her letters home went unanswered. But eventually, her mother started writing back. The letters were cautious at first, but grew warmer over time. 4 years into her sentence, Amara received the visitor she had both longed for and dreaded. Her father. Chief Okafor had aged years in the time Amara had been away. His hair was grey now, his face lined with worry. But when he saw Amara, his eyes lit up with a glimmer of hope. Their conversation was awkward at first, years of pain and disappointment standing between them. But as they talked, the walls began to crumble. "I'm so sorry, Papa," Amara said, tears streaming down her face. "For everything. I know I can never make up for what I've done, but I want to try. I want to be better." Chief Okafor reached across the table and took his daughter's hand. "That's all I've ever wanted, Amara," he said, his own eyes glistening. "For you to be the amazing woman I know you can be." From that day on, Amara attacked her rehabilitation with renewed vigor. She was determined to make her family proud, to become someone worthy of their love and trust. When Amara was finally released, she stepped out of the prison gates a different person from the lost girl who had entered 5 years before. Her family was there waiting for her, her father, her mother, even her younger siblings who had grown so much in her absence. There were tears and hugs, apologies and forgiveness. It wasn't perfect, there was still a lot of healing to be done. But it was a start. Amara threw herself into rebuilding her life. She got a job as a junior programmer at a tech startup, using the skills she had learned in prison. She attended support group meetings to maintain her sobriety. She volunteered at a youth center, hoping to steer other young people away from the mistakes she had made. It was at one of these youth center meetings that Amara met Olumide. He was a social worker, dedicated to helping troubled teens. Something about his kind eyes and easy smile drew Amara in. Their relationship developed slowly. Amara was hesitant at first, afraid that her past would scare Olumide away. But when she finally gathered the courage to tell him everything, his response amazed her. "We've all made mistakes, Amara," he said. "What matters is who you are now, and who you're trying to become. And the woman I see before me is someone I'd be proud to build a future with." 2 years after her release, Amara stood before her parents, holding Olumide's hand. "Mama, Papa," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "We want your blessing. Olumide has asked me to marry him, and I've said yes." For a moment, there was silence. Then Chief Okafor stood up, tears in his eyes. He embraced Amara, then Olumide. "My daughter," he said. "You have fought so hard to become the woman you are today. Nothing would make me happier than to give you my blessing." Amara's mother joined the embrace, her joy evident in her tearful smile. As Amara stood there, surrounded by the love of her family and her future husband, she felt a sense of peace she had never known before. The hole inside her, the one she had tried to fill with stealing and drugs for so long, was finally full. Full of love, of purpose, of hope for the future. Amara knew that her journey wasn't over. She would always have to be vigilant, always have to make the choice every day to stay on the right path. But for the first time in her life, she felt truly free. Free from the compulsions that had driven her for so long, free to become the person she was always meant to be. As she looked at Olympide, at her parents, Amara silently renewed her vow. To live each day with gratitude. To use her second chance to make a difference in the world. To honor the memory of her grandmother by becoming the woman Mama Okafor had always believed she could be. The thieving daughter was gone. In her place stood Amara Okafor, daughter, future wife, survivor. Ready to write the next chapter of her story.